Welcome back. It's Tuesday, just out for an easy 45 minutes. It's definitely turned a bit chilly. Got the leggings and jacket on today. But we're heading over to Daventry tomorrow for a track session with the team, which will be really good. Take you along to that. Yeah, just a standard week of training this week. And then next Sunday, Telford 10k, last race of the year. Go hard.
Drills are used to ensure that we have more efficient movement patterns. That's the basis of it. When we practice drills, we exaggerate our form, technique and posture. And if we teach the body to do all of these things correctly and practice them, then the aim is that the body will automatically pick those things up when running. So you're teaching your body to have a better form, better technique when you run. Drills also strengthen different muscle groups throughout the feet and the legs, so it can be used as a form of strength and conditioning in order to condition our body to be able to handle the toll of mileage and running a lot better. It also teaches us to have good balance and coordination skills, which obviously are really good for running, but also generally it's really good to develop these skills anyway. And if we repeat these drills again and again and kind of make them second nature, it will lead us in the end towards a much better running form and technique.
Thanks for coming on the channel, Josh.
Pleasure, mate.
So first of all, what does running mean to you?
It's a really solid question to start off with. To me, running is about, I'd say it's probably the perfect embodiment of life, really. It's a great metaphor for what you put in is exactly what you get out. And I think it teaches you such great values. If you apply yourself, you can get results, and being disciplined as well, and having that inner motivation that really you're the one that has got to put that work in to get you where you want to be.
Well, that's the most in-depth answer we've had to that question. Thank you very much. So if you could just give a little introduction to yourself and how you got into running and coaching in general.
Yeah, so I am Josh Schofield. I am head coach of PGC1 coaching. I'm also a director at the Young Athlete Camp. I'm a coach on the England Athletics Youth Talent Programme, and I'm also a consultant coach with EACT secondary schools. So I got into running when I was 8 years old. My dad used to train at a triathlon club in York, and he asked me if I wanted to go down. Typical kid, just thought, yeah, that's a bit of me, that is, I'm going to do that. He entered me for a race and I won it, and then never looked back since. So I was a triathlete up until the age of about 14, and joined the local athletics club up in York when I was about 11, as I just started year 7, and then ran at a national level for just over 10 years from there. So that was kind of my journey into running.
Sweet. So you started at school with your dad with triathlon, and then as you got older you went to university at Leeds Beckett University, and then right. If you could talk to me a bit about your experiences there.
So I ran all the way through school, and towards the end of sixth form, where I kind of had a really tough period in my own running. So at that point I joined Andy Henderson's group at Leeds Beckett, and Hendo kind of revolutionised my running really. I went from last in my English schools heat to getting an England vest in 18 months. Ran for England at the Home Countries International. I ran for the North of England a couple of times. Went to race out in Spain at a Ardwell AF permit cross meet, which was good fun. But yeah, I absolutely loved running at university. It was a great time to just focus on my training and really learn a lot more about the processes behind training as well. We had a great group up in Leeds. I think Phil Sesman, previous guest on the show, we used to train with Phil, and yeah, I just really love being part of a team atmosphere, and a great team culture. That I've tried to bring into my own coaching as well, where we applied ourselves, we pushed ourselves, and we got results.
Brilliant. So the way I see university running in England is if you're not part of it, you don't really know it exists.
Yeah, agreed.
Whereas the NCAAs is massive. Everyone knows about it. It's all over social media. So what are your thoughts on the NCAA system compared to books?
Yeah, it's a very different.
Win the mile, the NCAA indoor mile, but he really came onto our radar.
Way of going about your running, going for the NCAA versus being at a books institution. Now there's obviously positives and negatives with everything, but with the NCAA, it's very bright lights. You get great support from physios. You get great support from physical trainers or S&C coaches. You have a full-time coach there that's dedicated to improving performance, and there's a great atmosphere of wanting to improve and get better. That being said, it's a very cutthroat system. It's a very results-based system, being in the States. Coaches are paid based on what the end output of their university is. Therefore, naturally, they're going to push you and try and get more results out of you as an athlete. Now, that works for some people and doesn't work for others. Whereas in the book system, like at the top level, when you're talking your kind of Loughborough University, Birmingham University, Brunel's a very good books university. They are trying to compete for points, but it's more of a case of developing individual athletes within our system. And you'll see athletes year on year chip away at their books position, and then go on to do things. So that my brother's a good example. He his first books didn't even make it out of his heat, and these final books made the final and has won medals at like under 23 England champs. And that book system has allowed him to develop. Now in the States, he probably wouldn't have even had a second look into even start a 4 hurdles race. So it does allow for kind of a later development. We could talk for hours and hours about which system is better, but I think the perfect model is to develop yourself and develop and know what's good for you under the British system as an undergrad, and then if you've got the opportunity to go and do a master's, then go out to the States and do a master's out there as a bit of an older, a bit more mature head, and know a little bit more about yourself. But yeah, that's kind of from a training perspective. In terms of a media perspective, like the hype behind books is just so low. You wouldn't even know that it's happening unless you're actually in the university system. Now, I think that's a fundamental problem amongst all British running. Now there's guys going out there and trying to change that. I mean, the Sunday podcast guys are doing a really good job. Traxter's doing a really good job. Mark Hookway's doing a really good job at actually showing that these races exist. And now England Athletics are streaming a lot of cross-country stuff. Whereas in America, the NCAA champs are on ESPN, and like it's easier to watch American University cross than it is English. So it's a case of investment in the media side of things from here. If you invest it and do it right and do it well, then I think this system over here could be as good, if not better. I mean, the standard of races is incredible. Matt Stoner was the 1500 metre books champion, and Ben Patterson was second, both of which went and ran. Well, one ran a British record at the Commonwealth, the other one got a medal. So like the standard is high. We just need to advertise it and get a bit more media output there.
So you did a master's degree in sport and exercise nutrition at
right.
Loughborough University?
Yeah, Loughborough.
So my question is, if Morton is such a simple product of just a few ingredients, why has it taken so long for it to come about? Like, car products have been around for years, they've been used in endurance sport for a long time, and therefore, is it really worth the premium price tag, in your opinion?
Really, really good question. So the way that a Morton gel works is slightly different to a standard carbohydrate gel. So as you ingest a Morton gel, it goes through into the stomach and it acts like a glucose sac in the stomach, and it drip feeds carbohydrates to the muscle, compared to a more standard carbohydrate gel, which you'll take on board and will just go to the muscles more readily. Whether that process allows more carbohydrate oxidation and improves carbohydrate oxidation is up for debate. If you read a paper that is funded by Morton, you will see that the results are better. If you see a paper that's not funded by Morton, you'll see that the results show no difference in carbohydrate oxidation. I think at the fundamental level, you're talking very minimal differences, but Morton is probably a little bit more palatable and a little bit more easier on the stomach compared to kind of more traditional brands. So I think really whether it being worth the price tag or not is how much you're willing to invest. Are you comfortable with a SAS beta gel, for example, or a high five gel? Do you prefer the way that the Morton feels? I think when you're investing so much time into a marathon or a half marathon block, or you're running, a difference of £1 or £2 in a gel should be irrelevant really if you want to get that performance out of yourself. So whether it's not from a mechanistic carbohydrate level, whether it's worth it or not, it's probably above my pay grade, unfortunately. I'll have to get a PhD researcher to go through the fundamentals on that. But the research suggests you're going to get good benefit from feeding carbohydrate during a race. So you've got to have the carbohydrate that it is easiest for you to take on board, you like taking on board, and is going to help your performance to the greatest extent.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So, last question. What are your top 3 tips for marathon nutrition?
With regards to marathon nutrition, I think you can split it up. So in the block, I think your most important thing is learning how to take on fuel whilst you run. I think it's really, really important to train your gut to be taking on carbohydrate on the move at high intensities. So I'd say that's one, is the preparation side. I think the biggest tip that I could give on marathon race day itself is fuel well and fuel from the start. You're always going to get a degradation of energy and carbohydrate levels throughout a marathon. You're never going to finish in energy balance. So if you took Galen Rupp's marathon PB pace and the carbohydrate rate that he uses to run at that pace, he'd have to have 32 SIS gels in 2 hours in order to hit that, to stay in energy balance. So you're always going to be in a deficit, but you can reduce that deficit by taking on carbohydrate earlier on in the race. So I would be having a gel on the start line and really loading over the first kind of half, 3/4 of the race to make sure that you're well fueled for the end. And the final one is, I'd say, being organised with your nutrition in general will help with all races, but specifically the marathon. What are you going to be eating in the days beforehand? What are you going to be eating on the night before? What are you going to be eating during the block to get the most out of your training? And that is as important as the way that you plan your training as well. So being super organised and having a routine of what you're going to eat in order to get the most out of yourself.
Brilliant. So what are your thoughts on doing runs during a block without nutrition? Any benefits?
Funnily enough, this little guy here, PGC1 Alpha, is, yeah. So the reason a fasted run you might take that is that you can stimulate more PGC1 Alpha, which is a mitochondrial enzyme within your muscle. Now that mitochondrial enzyme is the key regulator for aerobic respiration. So training in a lowered carbohydrate state can increase the amount of PGC1 alpha, which could increase then your ability to respire aerobically. I would suggest that potentially you could do some fasted easy runs in the morning, lower than 60 minutes in duration. You might get some mechanistic carbohydrate benefit from that. It will be negligible, but you can get that benefit. What I would say is that if you're doing anything with any intensity, then you need to have carbohydrate there in order to fuel the muscles, because otherwise what our bodies do is, if we run at an intensity that is too high for kind of the amount of energy you've got stored within your body at any one point, we will start breaking down muscle cells in order to gain carbohydrate, because our bodies are not good at storing it. So you're then breaking down muscle in order to try and stimulate muscle change. So it kind of really completely counterintuitive. So any intense exercise, always feed well beforehand. Any low intensity runs, then potentially you don't need to fuel beforehand. But I would say that generally you kind of get into quite a complicated process there. I would probably always feed where possible, unless it's really uncomfortable on the stomach, then maybe kind of think about not, but any intensity, always feed beforehand.
Cool. Okay, so now we're going to move on to some subscriber questions. So, first of all, Craig the Runner asks, if you could only do one workout forever, what would that workout be?
That is a brilliant question. What workout? I think it would be a hilly long run. Would be the one workout I'd do forever. I think, there's nothing better as a runner than getting out on some hills, beautiful scenery, hopefully some nice weather as well, and enjoying a good run. Whether that's the most physiologically benefiting run of all time, who knows? But I think if I could only do one kind of workout forever, that would be it.
Cool. Right, so the next three questions all come from Shirls, El Capitan. So, following PGC1's rapid growth, how do you see the growth of the business in the coming years?
My overall idea for PGC1 is that I want it to be a place where you come for well-informed, high-level endurance coaching. So the next steps I'd like it to take is to move into other sports, and have it as kind of this big endurance platform where you know, if you see the brand PGC1 coaching, you're getting a coach that's got at least a degree in a sports related course, qualified coach within their own field, high level of experience as an athlete themselves, and a personable coach that is going to look after your best interests. And the aim is to create that environment, not just for running, but also push that into other sectors such as triathlon, maybe cycling, who knows, maybe a worldwide endurance sports brand.
Cool, so anyone's welcome at PGC1. We've got a whole host, we've got really high level international athletes, and then people who are just starting out on their running journey. Would you ever want to create an elite team for PGC1? Is that something that
I think
interests you?
There's always the romantic idea of having an elite team, and helping like elite level performance, and it's definitely a goal of mine within my coaching career to hopefully help take someone all the way to Olympics. It would be great to have a elite coaching or elite squad within PGC1. However, if that was at the detriment that it became an elitist environment, it's something that I would definitely not consider. For me, no matter what level of runner you are, everyone is the same. We are all going out there, we're doing the same training, we're walking the same streets. And it's really important that message never gets lost. We're a non-selective, non-elitist group. The celebration, the successes of our athletes, all the way from the bottom, finishing your first ever 5K, that is celebrated as much as getting to an international vest. So for me, it would be great to have an elite team, but that would have to be support the values of PGC1 as a group or kind of an institution that pushes people, helps people believe in themselves, and helps advance runners of all levels.
What an answer. Question is, what are your top 3 coaching moments?
I think it's really difficult to put down into and earmark certain moments, because I've had so many fantastic moments with so many athletes. But I think to kind of nail it down, I think the third one would be London Marathon 2021. I'd had no idea really what the full London Marathon was like in terms of atmosphere, and that day was just incredible. The atmosphere amongst the supporters we had, The results we had, and just the day in general was just so beautiful, and it was one that I just never wanted to end. And it really ignited like a love for helping people get through marathons within my coaching. So for sure that was definitely up there. I'd say second would be taking Arnie Rogers to Commonwealth Games this summer. That was unbelievable to help someone who has a full-time job, a family, all the way to one of the biggest multi-sport games in the world. Was incredible, and Arnie's had so many challenges over the years as well within his running, and to get him there on that start line and for him to run as well as he did, yeah, that was an incredible moment. And then the final one would be Manchester Marathon this year, or the number one kind of moment. I cannot put into words like one specific moment from that day, but just literally the whole day was absolutely incredible. From George Phillips, who was my first ever athlete, finishing 2:24, second non-elite, to Gabby breaking 3 for the first time, Cliff getting a good for age time for London, all the boys like beating their PBs, to the event that we had afterwards where we had a room of 75 people celebrating the third birthday of PGC1, and yeah, spraying bottles of champagne. That was probably the highlight of my coaching career so far.
Fantastic. So last question from Shields. How do you feel your qualifications and experience have helped with your coaching abilities?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the qualifications within coaching have helped me understand not only how to push kind of elite athletes, but to help translate performance into different scenarios. So it's not always that you're working with an athlete that's ran through the club system and knows every single thing there is to know about running. Actually, a lot of the time we're working with people that are quite new to the sport. So my coaching qualifications have really helped me with that translation process of, this is an idea, this is a concept, this is how to help someone improve. But how do I take this into someone that's never ran before, someone that's got limited experience in running, someone that's highly experienced, knows what they're doing, because they all require different levels of kind of input and help. So my qualifications definitely helped with that. I think from a sports science background, my qualifications have really helped with me understanding training concepts, being able to analyse what someone's doing, where the areas they can improve on are, and what kind of research is good research, what research is bad research, and what are the kind of things that you need to be looking for. And simplifying that process down for other people. I think the biggest role of a coach is a translator. We need to know things. We don't need to know everything, but we need to know things in a good depth. We need to know the people that know it in the best depth, so we can learn from them. But we also need to translate what they know into something that everyone can understand. And if we're unable to do that, then I think that's where we've got to do self-growth in order to get to that point. And then on the kind of specific coaching qualification side, it's that pastoral side, it's that understanding of people, it's that understanding and listening of people, and how to get the best out of someone. You can't always just say to someone, go and run miles and you will get better. Actually, you need to learn how to uplift people, you need to learn how to keep someone motivated. What is the way to get someone to sack off watching the England game on a Tuesday night so they come down to the track and do a session? How do you get that process in? So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing I learned from my coaching qualifications.
So next question is from Craig the Runner from Instagram. So with regards to super shoes, what is the best way to use them in a rotation, and is there a best way to introduce them to minimise any mechanical challenges?
Yeah, so in terms of the mechanical challenge they give, having a carbon plated shoe means that your foot doesn't have to kind of flex as much through your roll through, and the shoe kind of does that for you. So running in super shoes all the time is obviously going to reduce your ability to kind of use your feet. Could cause kind of problems down the line. I think we're still quite early on in the super shoe development phase, so it's difficult to know kind of what the long-term effects of that are. But you've obviously got the benefits of they reduce muscle degradation, which could leave you fresher to train the next day. and get more out of your training week. That being said, obviously, yeah, you've got your mechanical issues as well. So I think it's good to use them in and out of kind of training cycles. So potentially using them for a hard kind of speed session here and there is a good way of doing it. But I think you need to mix in your super shoes with kind of a similar styled cushion shoe without kind of that carbon plate. So for example, a Saucony Speed has got a really nice kind of responsive cushioning system, but with a nylon plate rather than the carbon plate. So kind of mixing those in and using those shoes around with a carbon shoe. I'd always recommend racing in a carbon shoe. That's always going to be a massive benefit, but don't be afraid to lose kind of a couple of seconds a mile on a rep, or have a little bit more muscle damage from not using a carbon shoe, but actually getting that mechanical benefit as well. So I've kind of felt like I've gone around the house and not given a too specific an answer there. It's kind of personal preference in individual basis. If you're quite an injury prone athlete, I would be saying, you know, is it a good idea to be using a shoe that's could potentially kind of change your mechanics? So yeah, the answer is it depends on factors within the individual, but definitely something to consider is using a super shoe style shoe, but without a carbon plate in training, and using more of using a carbon plate for your racing.
So I have one question after listening to your answer there. For if you're a marathon runner,
yeah,
in the middle of a marathon block, would you say the best time to use if you're racing a Nike Vaporfly, for instance, the best time to use a Nike Vaporfly would be a marathon long run session, or not?
I think you should gently introduce your body to running in them for longer durations over a period of time. So potentially dropping in an easy run here or there in them might be a good idea. In terms of like a training benefit, I would say that training in non-super shoes for your marathon workouts will be better. You've got more protection from the road, which reduces susceptibility to injury potentially. But that being said, obviously you've got to get used to running in those shoes for a prolonged period of time. I think it's a case of learning your body, learning what you can cope with. Probably dropping them on the odd workout here and there, and then using them for kind of a half marathon, 20-mile race in the build-up. That's probably enough.
Yeah, so that was what I was getting at.
Yeah,
like using them for a prolonged period over 20 miles.
Yeah. So
you know that you can run in them for that long.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
a 20-mile race a few weeks out.
Yeah.
Is best.
Milton Keynes
Cool.
20.
There we go. Okay, so the next question comes from my brother Robert. Apart from having to deal with me, as in Andy, what is the most challenging part of being a coach? Thanks, Robert.
I think it's the time in the background that people don't realise. Coaching looks a really, really glamorous thing. It's like, I want to be a coach. Yeah, it's great fun, and it is the best job in the world, and I absolutely love it. But yeah, when you're at the track, kind of till 8:30, 9 o'clock, 3 nights a week. When you're on a weekend, you've got messages coming through. It's a massive demand on your time, and you've got to really want to invest in other people and see and believe in other people for that time to be kind of warranted. So yeah, I'd say the hardest thing is the amount of time and the coaching kind of takes up.
Fantastic. Cool. So the next two questions come from Stephen Quigley. So what is the best and worst shoe you've ever used?
The best shoe I've ever used over the years, I would go with a Saucony Triumph. I love that shoe. I put some absolute abuse into that shoe for a long period of time, doing some good mileage when I was at uni. That would be up there. The Endorphin Pro again is a fantastic shoe. Really enjoyed running in that. I've also, what else have I loved running in? I used to absolutely love the Streak LT Plus 2. That is an old school racing flat. I used to love them. I used to feel like I was a pro runner every time I put them on my feet. But yeah, I'd say kind of day in, day out trainer, Saucony Triumph would be the best one. Worst shoe I've ever ran in would be the Nike Pegasus 36. Absolutely dire. After about 100 miles, they were gone.
I got them on offer from Nike for £50.
Yeah,
that's probably
you
why.
couldn't pay me £50 to run them. I'm going to upset people by saying that, and I apologise. But yeah, for a heavier runner, I am definitely the worst shoe that I've ever run in.
Sweet. And then another question from Stephen. What is your biggest achievement in running personally, and what did it mean to you?
My biggest personal achievement was qualifying to run for England. For me, it was such a massive reward for all of the time and commitment and dedication that I put into the sport. And I think I was always a runner that struggled on confidence. I think I had the ability and I trained hard, but I didn't always have the confidence within myself that I was ever good enough to race against the people I raced against. And to get that England vest for me kind of gave me that justification that actually, I did deserve to be up with the people that I was with, and I did deserve the success I was getting.
So the next question is from Peter. How important is strength training, and would you use it during a marathon block?
I think strength training is really important. Having a strong runner enables you to kind of cope with more volume. Muscles that are stronger have more power equals better performance. So I think it's really important to be strong and to have a strength and conditioning element to your session. What that looks like in terms of a training makeup can mean different things to different people. I've always been a believer that you can get really good strength and conditioning from doing lots of drills, doing kind of activation exercises within your training, so doing glute circuits, doing core workouts, things like that. I think that is a really good and valuable way of incorporating strength into a training block without having to lift too many heavy weights and reducing your capabilities of running higher mileage. That being said, like you can put in good kind of lifting programs into your training, and they will have benefit. I think it's really important to get good advice in doing so. So go to an S&C coach that has a really good understanding and basis of running, potentially a physio that is a specific running physio. Ask those kinds of people for a program that will fit in alongside your training.
Fantastic. So another question from Peter is, what is your pet hate amongst runners?
It's a little bit of a niche one, but it's always irritated me the kind of phrase that a lot of runners come out with where they say there's so much more to come. I kind of think, well, if you've got more to come, you should be doing it. You need to learn how to get that process of getting everything out of yourself. I try and instill within my athletes that we go to race to go and get everything out of ourselves, and whatever outcome that is, we can train and we can put processes in to improve the outcome in the long term. But yeah, having the phrase "so much more to come," I think you just leave yourself open to never being happy with the performance that you put out.
Cool. So the last question from subscribers, from Kelman. When using floats as part of a recovery during a session, how much slower should they be rather than the rep itself?
That's a really, really good question, and it depends on the session that you're doing. So if you're running a marathon session, for example, your float would be slower than potentially a float in a tempo session, but actually the difference between that and your rep pace might be lower. So it, for me, depends on the context of the session. It depends on the context of how fit you are as well. I don't think that as runners we should have kind of a one-size-fits-all approach. If you're doing a marathon session, you're only allowed 20 seconds float. Because if your fitness and shape doesn't allow for that, you're then obviously going to train different variables and get a different stimulus from the same session. So for me, I think it's about making sure your float recovery is sustainable enough so that you're not overdoing the workout, but still getting that benefit of not reducing your lactate too much. So I would say float recovery, you kind of want to keep in the region of about a 6 out of 10 RPE. In terms of a specific pace per mile, that'd be individual to you, but I would go off the fact that you want it kind of probably quicker than you go at an easy effort, but slower than you would a tempo.
Fantastic. So lastly, we have the quickfire round. So here we go. First question, tea or coffee?
Coffee every time.
Track session or long run?
Track session.
Dog or cat?
Oh, my mum's got 2 really nice dogs, so dogs.
For training, summer or winter?
Winter. Love winter training. Hate running in the sun.
Okay, so you've just ran a marathon PB. Is it PBs and pints or PBs and pizza?
PBs and pints.
Sauna or ice bath?
Sauna every time.
And Kipchoge or Bekele?
Kipchoge.
Fantastic. Brilliant, that's the end. Thank you very much for coming on, Josh. And how can people get hold of you if they want to come and try out PGC1?
So you can head to the website, www.pgc1coaching.com. You can book in a consultation there with me or with our other coach, Jack. You can find us on Instagram, PGC1 Coaching, or Josh Schofield 1098. Or you can email me on joshua@pgc1coaching.com. Any questions, or if you want to find anything out about us, don't be afraid to get in touch, and be a pleasure to have on board.
Fantastic. Brilliant. We'll see you soon.
Cheers. Thank you.
10 minutes. Okay, that is split up as 6 minutes threshold. Okay, followed by 90 seconds. I've put it on Training Peaks as squeeze, but what we're doing there is running 90 seconds hard, 5k feel and maybe a little bit quicker. Okay, followed by a 2.5 minute jog. So it's only 30 minutes of total running tonight. The 6 minutes, again, I want that in and around your kind of lactate threshold, so the pace you can stay in for roughly an hour. I want to see a big change of pace between that and your 90-second rep. Okay, so to simplify it right down, 6 minutes, 7 out of 10, 90 seconds, 9 out of 10. Okay, and then the 2.5 minutes is an easy sort of probably 3 to 5 out of 10.
So no recovery between the 6 and the 9?
No, straight into it. Okay, so it's a progression. We're straight into it. Yeah. How I'll do it tonight is 1 whistle will be to run the threshold. Okay, 2 whistles will be your jog as normal, and when I blow the 3 whistles in the middle of that, after the 6 minutes, okay, that's to go hard. Okay, so 3 whistles means hard. Does that make sense? Cool. Right, let's crack up with drills.
Say hello to That 90 second was hard. 2.5 minute recovery into another tempo session.
We've commandeered Andy's camera. Got the boys, lovely stuff. Connor, say hello to Andy's YouTube channel.
Yes, boy.
You got any tips for Andy?
Run hard, mate.
Yeah, just run hard, boys. Run hard.
Good running, boys. 90 seconds graft. Oh, that change of pace. Oh, hard work, hard work. So, first session back after my illness, and my legs can really feel it. That was hard work, but being at the track here at Daventry with all the PGC1 lot helped me get through it there. There's a group of us working on the tempos together. Felt good. Just had no change of pace, but it'll come back. So, just parked up, off for my long run now. It's 80 minutes, just nice and easy. And then race week tomorrow, baby. Let's go.